And we are on. This is episode number 7, T&W Podcast. If you are new to our channel, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Nevil Thomas.
I'm Kevin Wang.
Kevin Wang. And we are business students. We talk about different industries and stuff, and come join with us and let's share some ideas what the future is in the economy. Kevin, how are you doing?
Classes are starting. That's all in books done right now. Mostly classes.
That's true. Classes are starting tomorrow.
How many credits are you taking?
I'm taking 16. How about you?
18.
Wow. We got an 18 credit person here, everybody. Now, for those of you who might not know what credits mean, it means how many credit hours are spent. Typically, take the amount of hours, multiply it by 3. That's the amount of time college students should spend in total for all their classes. And 18 credits, that's a lot of credits. Kevin Wang, I give you many prompts, and I wish you the best, man.
Yeah, I'm probably screwed this semester, but yeah.
You're not. Hey, everything is mindset. Everybody, that's the thing. It's all of its mindset. It's always mindset.
As long as you have everything planned out, you're probably fine.
Planning is key. I love calendars. Electronic calendars. If I got something that's due tomorrow or something tomorrow, my phone's going off, my computer's going off, everything's going off.
Except the fire alarm, hopefully.
Well, you want it to go off when the fire is on, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're praying for here. All right, so we got some interesting topics for today. And let's see where things go.
All right,
Kevin, do you want to be the one to go first with your first articles, and then we can lead into mine, one of mine, and then go back to you and end with me? How about that?
All right, let's start with France. So, obviously, Pfizer's coming out. People are getting vaccines because they don't want to stay home all day. The main issues that the U.S. is facing mainly, as we talked about before, is on a local level. On the federal level, things are more or less going okay. They're producing a ton of them. They're getting all over. But it's at the local level that the problem is. There's issues with getting the vaccine out there. There's just not enough infrastructure for that. Well, on France, it's the other way around. Basically they have the vaccines, they have this infrastructure to distribute it, everyone's encouraged to do it, but in fact I believe it was the vast majority of France's population actually doesn't want to take the vaccine. It seems to be rooted in a lot of skepticism. They're just very skeptical about it. Well, at least from what the article implies, is this may be a offshoot from the anti-vax movement, as well as maybe some historical significance from when the vaccinations itself, the concept was first invented. But yeah, France had a lot of vaccinations going on there.
So there is not a lot of vaccinations going on.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay.
Majority of people don't want it.
So a majority of people don't want the vaccine. That's very interesting. So I know there can be there's a lot of fear and stuff on how a vaccine can affect someone, because there's many different side effects. It's like medicine. Like medicine has many different side effects, and so do vaccines, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that was part of it. There was misinformation being spread about it, altering your genes or something like that.
Really? That's very interesting. Okay, so then I guess that brings up a question. How do we as one global citizens is, how do we stop misinformation? Or how do I guess misinformation is something that is being looked at. Is that something that will be growing more in the future? Because that's been a big thing.
I believe misinformation is always going to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And it really falls on the person itself to deal with misinformation. I actually looked at this article earlier. It's a completely separate one, but basically it mentioned that people with a higher, degree of intellectual humility are more likely to fact check and double check all the information and thus uncover misinformation. Um, yeah, apparently just be humble. That might be the best solution.
So people with let's break that down if we can. So people with an intellectual humility. What does that mean?
Yes.
People who don't believe.
People who know. People who believe that somebody else can be right, even if they don't have the same level of education. So
Okay.
I'm sure everyone remembers this as a kid, right? You know, you knew something that was right. You were like, hey, mom, or hey, dad, or something, whatever, or to some sort of adult, just like, hey, I know this happened. This is what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the adult just goes like, no, I'm right. You're wrong. I'm an adult. You're a baby. You're a kid or something like that. I'm right. You're wrong. That's an example of not being intellectually humble, where you're like, because I have more experiences or because I have higher education, because like socially I'm supposed to be better, I'm always right no matter what. Type of thing. So intellectual humility is basically knowing that even if someone didn't go to college, or if someone didn't do much research into this area where you do your work, there's a chance that they're right.
Okay. It's interesting. Okay, so there's a chance of being right. So when people are taking the time to research more on their own, fact check, look at different opinions, like people coming to our podcast, like they're able to. I'm not saying we're always 100% right, Kevin, me and you. What we call today might
Honestly,
might not happen in 10 years.
We might be more wrong than right. We're just giving our opinions.
That's probably most likely what's going to happen. But it's when people get those different ideas, then they're able to critically think for themselves. And so that's interesting because one thing that I've been beginning to learn is like with different products, you have quality. Quality is a key factor that's looked at. Whether, let's just say you're making phones, you need to test the quality of what's going on. Or just, let's make it even simple. A pen. You got to test the quality of it, right? The ink, the spring, there's 10 different things with a pen that can impact its quality. And so, like, I guess in more of on a technology side, I think that's where you find a lot of these companies facing, maybe like a Facebook or different companies like that, social media companies and other platforms, where what they're facing is they want to make sure that things are accurate info, that what's accurate is what's being provided, and that it's providing more value. It's helping people to a greater extent, and I think that's a big thing you brought up here, and because when they're able to combat that and say, "Hey, here's the most accurate info," it keeps their standard of quality at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just willy-nilly bad information, because what happens is with so much bad information, it sometimes drowns out all of the good information, the true information.
What's your opinion then on what's going on in France? Because not all of it is from misinformation. There's a lot of people doing fact checking themselves.
When you say what's going on in France, do you mean more of like them choosing not to take the vaccine?
Yeah, the general distrust of the vaccine, or yeah.
I can understand that. I don't lean anti-vaxxer. I don't lean pro-vaxxer. I think vaccines are something that helped us fight different diseases like the flu and stuff. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that about this particular vaccine because I don't know about it. And I'm just speaking out of my own experience. But I think I have a general rule where I typically don't like to pre-order items. I just generally don't like to pre-order items because with any item, This isn't like part of a specific industry, specific company. This is just life in general. Whenever you whenever you try to do something big and bold and just right off the gate, typically there are other things that will impact it. There's unforeseen circumstances you just weren't expecting or you didn't test out and things like that, right? And when you have those unforeseen circumstances that come up, at which point is when okay, you have a problem. You recognize what the problem is, you figure out a solution, and then you you deliver on that solution to create a positive outcome. That's just how life is. So typically, I don't like to pre-order items. The only items that I do pre-order are books. And I like to wait time, whether it's a car, whether it's a phone, whatever the item is, electronics, anything. So I think that's the same stance I'm going to take with like the vaccine, where I want to wait. I've got no problem wearing a mask and going outside. Like wearing a mask while I go outside, and so um, I think I just personally believe that, hey, like I just believe in waiting. So I've understood different stuff.
Would you say this
And
is more from kind of you want to understand it more, you want to know what you're getting into, or is this more of sort of like financial planning where you're trying to keep track of where your money's going, or where did you say this coming from?
this is just more of like on a personal, not a financial aspect. I'm not worried on a financial aspect. Um, yeah, I'm not worried on a financial aspect. In fact, I don't believe people should have to be worried because I think the government is taking care of that. My understanding. Forgive me if I'm wrong
Oh,
here.
okay. Yeah, for the
Um,
vaccine.
yeah, and so forgive me if I'm wrong, but like it's not on the financial aspect. It's just a personal aspect where I just don't typically go front in line for stuff. That's just
Except,
unless
except, except when there's a speaker, you're always
yes.
running up there.
Hey, that's just personally who I am. I'm running up there. I'm trying to ask questions because I got questions. I promise you, I always have questions. And I've understood this and I believe this. The only bad people say there are no bad questions. I take that back. I don't say that there's not bad questions. The only bad questions there are, ladies and gentlemen, are the questions you don't ask. You know why? Because guess what? You still don't know the answer. What that also means is, guess what? You can go up there. You can make every single question from a bad question to a good question. You don't know the answer. Now you know the answer. And if you don't know it, then guess what? You can ask another question. And you can ask as many questions and learn as much as you can just to learn. And once you learn it, guess what? That became a good question. You know why? Because you got more up here. And that's one thing I believe in. If you don't know something, just ask. Um, that's one thing that's also kind of like hard, like on a personal level, where you're like, I don't know, this might make me feel dumb and stuff. Kevin just said those who are intellectually what they have low in intellectual humility, which means they don't see themselves as super smart people.
High
They're
intellectual humility. Yeah.
yeah, like they're the ones who people who don't see them like are people who don't see themselves as super smart and stuff. They are the ones who do more fact checking and more educated on different things. So guess what? If you're worried, don't be. Take it and be like, hey, I want to learn more. And that's what it is at the end of the day. So Kevin, I gave you my side. You know that I like to pre-order books and I'm waiting this off. What about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Um, it's understandable. I would say, I guess part of it is, I would say, obviously, their culture would probably have a large factor on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like just sort of their, at least in terms of European culture, at least in my impression of it, is that it's more conservative, wait and see, make sure you know what you're doing type of thing. And the Pfizer vaccine is well regarded or widely regarded as being somewhat rushed. Another thing is the French government is not very trusted, especially in France. So apparently there's some issues there. I can't really comment on that. I don't know much about the French government or French politics, but apparently there's issues there with distrust towards the government, kind of everywhere in the world right now. But what else is there? I mean, I'd say it's understandable, new vaccine, different techniques, never before used, kind of rushed. You're going to be kind of suspicious. I kind of fall in the same boat. I'm not going to be front in the line for the vaccine. I'm not going to be back of the line either.
When it is safe, you want to take it.
Yeah.
And I understand that. When it is safe. I think safety is the number one most important thing. When people move anywhere, whether you're a mom, your dad, your husband, wife.
Look at three things: money, safety, and education.
Yeah, but safety always comes first.
Yeah.
Safety always comes first. If you're not in a safe place, then that's the first thing people like to address. Whenever they move somewhere, they're saying, is this place going to be more safe for me? And so I think that's going to be what does the future of this look like? What I mean is this. What I mean is we've talked in the many previous podcasts, especially I believe on the last 2 episodes, mostly, we talked about culture. The culture between if we're not happy, we go, we protest, different that culture, and just in the sad culture right now, like we're starting to see there's a divide. Is this something that will also become a big thing? And I think this kind of also leads into my next article, the article I wanted to bring.
I think with France, I'm
speaking of the U.S.
Oh, U.S.
The US.
In terms of the vaccine.
Yeah, like in my article that I brought up, which is about the top 10
the
global
consumer.
trends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the things that was said is, again, ladies and gentlemen, you can find this article in the Wall Street Journal, and it said that there was more brand activism, and so like consumers pay closer attention to companies and their actions, and they take and like how they take like social and environmental issues, and so that they wanted companies that protect health and well-being of their workforce, help local communities, and promote ambitious sustainability goals. And so that's interesting and it's good. And so people are spending their money on more. People are spending their money on companies that agree with their ideals, which is I think it's an excellent form of capitalism. So, how do you believe this can impact it? See, people are already making decisions with their money, and then we see on the news that there's different protests, different movements. How do you think this could play out?
I feel like at least with the vaccine, I don't know. I could see maybe one of two routes happening, right? You could either get the sort of technological adoption trend, where it's usually sort of like a bell curve, where you get the early adopters, the people who see what's going to happen, who see basically the promise of the vaccine, which is, no side effects or nothing except for fatigue as side effects, and you're just fine, like 95% cure rate, you're good. And then you're going to get the midterm adopters, the people who see the early adopters going and it's successful. They're like, all right, maybe this is safe. I don't really want to be stuck inside all the time, so I'm just going to go get a vaccine. And then you're going to get the late adopters when pretty much everyone else has it. And they're like, okay, well, I never really wanted to get the vaccine anyway, but, I kind of have to. And, herd immunity, I don't really need to, but whatever. And they might go and get it because they're just forced to by society. That's one option, I think, happening. Or I guess maybe it would be more of a divergent sort of like a lot of people at the start, just people who are like, I want to get the fuck out of my house. I've been in here for like a year. I don't want to be here anymore. And then after a while,
Excuse me, I need to make a disclaimer to all our viewers under 17 years old. We apologize.
oh no,
Kevin, please go ahead.
I'm sorry for that.
I'm laughing. Go ahead.
Okay, there's like nobody in the middle. Everyone who wanted it already got it. Everyone who doesn't want it, they're just waiting to see the people start dropping left and right. They're like, nah, this thing ain't safe. After a while, everyone's fine. They're like, okay, fine, whatever. Let's just get it over. What's your opinion?
I think people's confidence in this vaccine, people are spending more money on things that they're more confident in, things they believe in, and companies that do the same. I think they might not be spending their own money, but their willingness to take this vaccine and stuff will show their confidence in such companies. And I think that's all we can say for right now, because those are the trends. We can't predict a trend. We can only see, observe, and understand what's going on when it starts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's right now, things are moving for healthcare workers. But it's going to be interesting to see for people who are not healthcare workers, what happens for them. But in that case, I think right now is a good time to move into our second article.
Trends.
Yes, top 10 trends. So for you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to read off these trends for you. And then let's talk about these trends, Kevin. So there's more brand activism, which I said about.
Mm-hmm.
Spontaneity and convenience, so things being more spontaneous.
Or the coffee shop muffin type of thing.
Open air. Yes. Physical and digital worlds. New schedules. This was an interesting one, which I'm still trying to understand, and it's called revenge spending, which is interesting. Thoughtful frugality. Safety obsession. Greater self-awareness. Working from home evolves.
So, all right, so let's just break that down from the top.
Mm-hmm. So more brand activism. I think we've kind of like talked about this. Let's just talk a little bit more about this some more. And so it's like we've seen there's a lot of different movements out there and people believing different things. And so what does this mean? People are willing to spend more money on different on things that they support, organizations they support. Is that what that is?
I think so, yeah. People have more time to sort of shop around, look at what they want and what they support, because they sort of see the world as, kind of going downhill. So they're like, I want to support what's good.
Downhill? Why downhill?
What? Like political issues, pandemic issues. There's national issues. There's tensions between countries. There's, so on and so forth. There's like a list about Mile High.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Things are not great right now.
So people are spending more money onto movements that they support about, whether it's sustainability, politics, whatever it may be, but they're spending more money, which I think that's very interesting. So there's more money to be spent on different areas like that. Okay. So then let's look at this next one. So spontaneity and convenience.
Well,
and if I'm mispronouncing that, I truly do apologize.
Does this mean that there's more money being spent, or is it money shifting?
I think it's more money's being shifting, where it says that people miss the spontaneous activities and impulse purchases of pre-pandemic life, running errands, attending social events, dining out, and they want digital commerce to offer a similar experience. So that they're waiting for more. So like we really want that on-the-go coffee, that walk and stop for lunch somewhere, that flexibility and ease. So just allowing people to be able to like take the time off, whether it's 5 minute or like a 15-minute tea break. I think that's something that's going to be interesting to see. Um, just because with things being more online, and we'll talk more about this on one of the later trends, there's a different perspective to now working from home, right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, working from home is quite a major lifestyle change. And there's going to be changes in how you spend your money that reflects that.
Okay. Okay. Um, so I guess how we move from that, we might get more trends into 2021 saying where people are willing to spend more money on those leisure type activities. I think that might be something to see. Um, Open air. So outdoor spaces of work, events, and recreation will remain strong. So people and like apparently global gardening sales have gone up. That's interesting. So I know that when the pandemic hit, a lot of people who I know, like if they owned a home, they were doing a lot of work around their house, whether it was a garden or maybe they just wanted to buy wood to fix their deck or
Did that happen
they
with your family?
uh I don't believe we did actually much. My parents like to garden.
Or
So
was that
some
like they always like to garden?
in the summertime, summer and springtime.
Or
But like now they just there's availability. But like um but you just saw like a lot of people gardening, right?
mm-hmm.
Um and I know we
Well,
did something
actually,
else.
I didn't quite see a lot of people garden, but that might just be because I'm in a suburb.
See, like I'm also in a suburb, and so it's like but it's like people are they have more time for home care,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
is that something that's going to be going up more of in the future? Because they're spending. It's kind of understandable where taking care of your home is not a. It's not a cheap item. Typically, it's typically an
Mm.
expensive thing. Like you need
I
wood.
mean, this is kind of like the thing where like you're gonna take care of issues that bother you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when if you look at like the typical workplace, right? If there's any issues there, most of the time they get resolved fairly quickly in the offices and things like that, because you have to spend your whole day sitting at your office, right? So if I don't know, your bookshelf's like crooked or like there's a cracked thing, you're gonna get that replaced pronto. But I think the reason why everything going on around the house is going up. It's one, convenience, of course. You're always there. There's not as much travel time. You don't have to be at work. And two, you have to like deal with it. Chip and
Remember,
paint.
these are trends into 2021.
Yeah, like
Okay.
chip and paint. You're gonna be staring there, looking at that chip and paint for like the past 3 months. You're gonna be like, all right, it's time to fix that thing. You know, I
It's
don't know,
about time
lawns. Yeah.
Okay. 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 All right. So then we have the physical and digital worlds. This is interesting. And so and they talked about people who have used augmented reality or virtual reality by age group in the past year. And Kevin, me and you are in the age group of 15 to 29-year-olds, and that is 59.3%. Kevin, have you spent time in virtual or augmented reality?
I don't. How would you classify virtual reality?
Uh like I think that's more of like where you have like those glasses and then you're like trying out different stuff like on the like I think this is on the PlayStation maybe where you're playing things like in like kind of like open air but you
Mm-hmm.
can only see it in those glasses. I personally
Well,
have not.
okay, so the thing is, from my understanding, let me check. Okay. I see. Well, okay, so from my understanding, which I just double checked and it was right, augmented reality is when you take a sort of a view of the world and then you apply filters through it, kind of. So like Pokemon Go is an example of augmented reality,
Mm.
where you're looking at the world and then there's Pokemon there.
Mm.
Virtual reality is when you try and replace that completely and remove physical or like a physical stimulus. So virtual reality is technically non-existent right now. It's not achievable with current technology.
Okay.
The things that are marketed as virtual reality are just kind of like marketing gimmicks, I would say. It's close enough that you can use that term, but it's not close enough that it actually means that term, right? Personally, I have neither used virtual nor augmented reality.
In that case, we are a part of that 40%. But we see that things are dropping off where it's like 59.3%, 54.5%, 45 to 59 year old people have 133.4%, and then anybody who's 60 or who's 60 or older, 21% of them have done it. So this one's gonna be a really interesting one, and it's this: new schedules. Staying at home has pushed consumers to be more creative with their time, like organizing their daily schedules, juggling the work, family, and personal lives. Um, yeah, and so they're trying to be more flexible. Um, there will be a demand for a 24-hour service culture. Um, and so, yeah, so like, because of like different events and stuff, not just it's not just yourself and a company, but it's you personally might have you yourself might have some things, your family, like things, people who are close to you might have some things, and then you and your society might have some things. And so I think that's something that's going to be changing. And how do you feel about that? What is this?
I mean, I can't really say it's either good or bad. 24-hour service is going to tire people out, especially entrepreneurs who don't have a large dedicated customer service team who can take shifts. But I guess it does draw away from work having to be done in that sort of 9 to 5 period where it's like these are business hours. If it's like 5:06 or something, you can't be sending emails or you can't be calling people because it's after business hours or something like that. I mean, that was always something I didn't 100% understand, but that might just because I'm young. We're young, we're all college
Mhm.
people. We wake up at 12, we go to sleep at 1.
Well, I'm trying to get up earlier, and I know
I
you
mean,
are too,
yeah,
because we got classes before 12 too. So, and so
8
that's gonna
a.m.s.
8:30 for me. But I know that's something that's gonna be. It's gonna change a lot. People
Yeah.
have people are starting to understand work. Guess what? Uh, Little children will come into your meetings, and it doesn't matter who you're in the meeting with, no matter how important they are. Like, I think people have started to accept, and if they haven't, they will need to accept that. Hey, some people, they just have other lives too, whether it's kids or pets or anything that they love or care about, right? And so that will require some of their time. And so I think like right now you'll see people more of taking the time, putting that focus onto themselves. But let's go on more. Let's go on more. So then you have
So,
revenge spending, which is interesting. And so it's called, many people are distrusting of leadership and government, and bias and misinformation are feeding a crisis of confidence. And so that's why people are placing their own needs and wants first. So let's just it's called revenge shopping or splurging after being homebound. Homebound. Okay, so that's interesting. So that's like different things such as alcoholic drinks, indulgent packaged foods, and video games are on the rise. So people are being more looking out for themselves. But then this next one is interesting. Here, let me just read through the list and we can talk more about all of these. Thoughtful frugality. Um, so so because of like financial hardships from job loss and instability, they're forcing thrifty spending behaviors. Uh, So, like, I guess people are taking down more about the luxury items. There's an obsession towards safety. That's another trend. Hand washing, wearing masks, contactless payments. There's a greater self awareness. Uh, the mental, and so it's just like health risks, economic hardships, and isolation. And then the working from home trend, as we just said, like they say that it is going to be evolving. So let's talk about this. We are college students. Our viewers might be college students.
Mhm.
But let's just, on the aspect of college students, how does this impact us?
I mean,
Does this,
it impacts us quite a bit.
I,
Obviously, we're college
Mhm.
students. I personally don't do this much, but I know people who party every day, party every other day, something like that. That doesn't happen anymore. Um, People are being a lot more safe. Parties aren't really happening, and it's sort of like everyone's just trying to make sure that everyone stays safe, I guess. And frugality makes sense. You have to stay at home. Your income is not quite as high. So while you want to stay happy and you're buying things to keep you happy, you also are keeping a tighter eye on your budget. And work from home. That one's actually pretty interesting because I remember in spring 2020, before COVID really hit, right? I was in
so January, February, beginning of
yeah,
March.
I was in Marketing 250. You're in that class for now, right?
I am in that
Yeah.
class right now.
I was in Marketing 250 and we had a group project. So we were supposed to do a research paper on working from home and its benefits and downsides. And like after our analysis on a couple of research articles and so on and so forth, we found that, working from home has upsides and downsides. Upsides are, you're saving time from commute, you have more time to work, you're saving money from commuting, and people typically are happier having their own schedule to whether they come into office or they stay at home, right? And the downsides were that, people were less likely to, stay on task. There were distractions at home, so on and so forth. Maybe self-discipline isn't as high. So we found people are happier at home, and self-discipline is what makes it or breaks it. Well, now you look at it, people are miserable at home. They're like, we want to be out, want to get out of here. So
I think they've just been there needs to be a balance between the two. Like you just can't, like it's like it comes with everything in life. Whether like on a health level, like you just can't have too much sugar. Like you can't eat sugar all the time. That's not good for you. But you can't, and that's you can't just have all of just one item. You need a balance with everything, right? And so I think that's kind of also what this is, and it's more of like people just want to balance staying at home. But I think this what it's also done is it's changed how working from home is being. Like there's certain expectations now. If you want to work from home, I think what this does is it allows for that flexibility. But I guess with working from home, like managers are able to say, "Hey, I'm comfortable with you doing that, but let's set some goals." They know kind of like a procedure of how to handle working from home. And I guess here's my question. You see a lot of people who apply for visas, right? Like moving to different countries. Like when you apply for a job, I know that's what you asked about, whether a company will need to sponsor your visa.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So my question is this: with things being video conferencing, you said that 24-hour service might not be available. Let's just say people work 8 hours a day. 24 divided by 8 means 3, which means you need 3 shifts of 8, right? Right now, you see companies like FCA and the PSA group merging together. Okay? France and the United States operate on 2 different time zones. Right?
Yes.
So what this does is they put them on a global scale, a global competitive advantage. And if they have maybe somebody, maybe they merge with a company in China or just a company across the world, or they have people working across the world, whether it's China, India, somewhere in the Asian countries. What that does is it forces a 24-hour type of service. One of the three locations will be on and awake and working, whether it's India, France, or America. I'm just throwing this India or China as an example, right? It's just an example, but this shows like how this 24-hour service thing can be impacted. I know like something that people have like they'll try to get a job and they need to apply for a visa, and that can be stressful for some people and things like that. My parents are immigrants here, and like does video conferencing change that game?
Well, obviously.
Like a company here hires somebody directly, not through a third party, or maybe they were originally a contractor, but then they hire them as an employee. Does this begin to happen? Do people have a global workforce?
It's already happened. Obviously, it's been working towards global service already since the 24-hour service has always sort of appealed as like a sort of badge of honor, I guess, over other competitors. Like, hey, we're always available. You can always count on us type of deal, right? But also because of working at home, people just have, and because of the international like Zoom and things like that, it's video conferencing software and things like that. It's easier to provide service from anywhere in the world because it's always daytime on half the world, you know? So that, well, maybe not half per se, but like it's always daytime somewhere. I've seen some of it during the summer. As you know, I was traveling through Virginia, going door to door, and I was talking to families and meeting with them and everything. And one thing I found was like one family in particular, the husband worked at Dish, and then he actually worked from home, or there's like some local place, and then he would provide sort of like web service and customer service to people all over the country. Another thing I want to point out is that during last semester, the fall semester, in I want to say marketing 317, one of my group mates was in India. Like he was in India, and we were still meeting up and doing a project and everything.
I think that's interesting. That's happening in education. So imagine what that like. My question is, can this possibly lead to things being more direct?
Like, possibly.
And so I think that's something that's gonna have to be looked out for. But I think what this does is this puts every single person who's trying to apply for a job, that competition has just increased.
Yeah.
Because now anybody can do it. Because distance is no longer something. As long as the company is willing to not need you directly at the office, distance has just gone out the window.
All right.
Let's move on to article number 3. Kevin, what article would you like to bring up?
Should we do a one more article type of thing, or because it looks like we got 2 more, one of mine and one of yours, but based on the time, I'd say we got time for one. Okay. So you want to talk about movies, or you want to talk about oil?
Well, if you don't mind, do you want to talk about movies?
Movies are cool.
Yeah, movies are very cool, and I think our audience loves movies. Or at least, so we talk about what? We talk, Kevin, on this podcast, we've so far talked about a lot of supply chain, healthcare,
business,
business is what we are. That's who we are. That's what we talk about. But we've talked about financial services. We've talked about different things, but we have not talked about the entertainment industry. So this is momentous. Never talked about the entertainment industry, but things are going to be very interesting. And so this article again, and it talks about how movies might be delayed again. And we saw, and I think that's that's amazing. I wouldn't say it's amazing. I mean, I want to see movies. Okay, I really do want to see some movies. So, but this is like, what do we do? What are people doing? I think this is something to talk about. So let's talk. So in this article, they talked about, and the main photo was in the latest upcoming and exciting movie, No Time to Die, James Bond. And so it's a photo of James Bond. And so this is a movie that was supposed to come out and then got postponed to later this year. And I think it's going to get postponed. And out of the way it sounds, is that it's currently planned for an April release that now seems a remote possibility. And so my understanding is that, and so then there's like other movies like The King's Man, which I personally was looking forward to seeing because
Kingsman?
I'm a fan of the Kingsman series, and this would be the third movie, and then Sony's
Nice.
new Cinderella adaptation, and those movies could get bumped within the next 2 months. So there's different movies that are coming out. However, a big movie is Top Gun Maverick, set to premiere on July 2nd, and they don't plan on changing that. So, what does this mean? What does this mean for movies? What does this mean for the entertainment industry? What does this mean? Because of COVID, what has this done?
You do have to wonder, like, before you didn't really think about it, movies really come and go, you know. It felt like a long time between each movie. But like COVID happens, so no one's watching movies. So you gotta think like the past year has just been like no movies whatsoever. So I mean, I'm of the opinion that they better just be spending that time refining it, so that you
that's
get a
not
really good.
always. Here's the thing: some of these movies are already done. Like they're done, and they're just done. There's no more. There's no additional work they want to do. Because imagine when making a movie, there's a lot of expenses, right? It's like one of the biggest investments you can make, and it can go either which way. Like movies, they spend like millions of dollars on them, right? And hopefully to get returns out of like billions of dollars. But still, like that's not always what happens. And you got to spend time for editors, video people, and then like let's just say you said like refining a movie. Well, put it this way, then you need a studio. That studio needs equipment. Maybe you rent that all out, and that's still expensive day by day, month by month. You need to have like secure transportation of the movie, things like that. So there's a lot of factors that we're not looking, and there's a lot of pricing factors. And I think these movies, they're just done. They're ready to be released, but they just can't be released in these theaters because of COVID.
Case, well, you mentioned that some of these movies are being sold to streaming services.
Yes.
Online thing. But I mean, I think many people would agree with me here that everybody always knew that you could just wait another month and see the movie on a CD, for half the price, 10th of the price or whatever. But the reason people went to movie theaters was because it was exciting, because it was a social event, and because it's just better.
And they just wanted the full experience. They wanted the experience. Go on, Kevin. I apologize for interrupting you.
So, I'm of the opinion that people are going to be splurging on movies when lockdown lifts. When people are whenever any sort of authority figure says, "All right, we're fine. You can go and enjoy yourself." Or like, maybe we could loosen up a little bit. There's going to be a splurge on movie theaters. I guarantee you that. Everyone's going to be seeing all these new movies that are coming out, that all these like blockbusters, these S-tier movies that have been coming out while they were in lockdown. Yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. A lot of these studios are probably going to have some issues with a year without much of revenue, at least in terms of traditional revenue sources. But I feel like there's going to be a big resurgence once people start going out or movie theaters start doing a lot more of the mass service again.
Okay, so then I got a few more questions then. Okay, and this is possibly the future. So it'll come back. It's a social type of an event. Okay, you say it's going to come back. So right now, people who are feeling the pressure right now are theaters. People who own theaters, they're trying to run theaters, but they can't fill up seats. And theaters typically make their money on concessions. I think that's like a generally known thing. And but they make their money on concessions. Like they might make a little bit, just barely on the movie itself, but most of the money comes off concessions, where you're buying that pizza, popcorn, pop, all of that wonderful stuff, right? Here's the question. When things became moved onto home, that hurt many people's businesses. Now,
Yes.
I believe that some of these movies are going to be, they're waiting and they want to bring them back to theaters. Maybe they've been under contract or things like that, but they're waiting to come back to theaters themselves. And so my question is this. Do you think where do you think theaters will be in 10 years? Will we have more? Will we have less? And then I have a secondary question. Or in the next year, don't even go 10 years, 1 year. Where are we at with theaters?
I think. See, the main thing with theaters is it's very immersive. I don't know about you, but every time I'm watching a movie at home or something, halfway through I could just glance off screen and lose the immersion. But like when you're in a movie theater, when you go in, the immersion is for the entire time. So, yeah. Wait, sorry. Can you hear anything in my background?
No, I cannot.
Okay, just making sure. But yeah, I would say that's the main point of theaters. I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. Certainly not in the next 10 years, unless some entrepreneur comes out with some sort of product that can provide the same level of immersion.
Okay, so then
that might be VR.
That's what I was just about to ask. Kevin, great minds think alike. And so here's the thing. We just talked about trends, right? What do we do if there are, like, with virtual reality coming out or augmented reality? I'm not sure which one's specific, but what happens if people wear glasses? They wear, like, I know that was one thing that's been talked about was, like, before there used to be like standard disco clubs, right? And people would have at these disco, like at a disco club, what it is you play music and people are dancing, right? People are dancing and playing music, right? But then there became the immersion of the silent disco, which is where instead of people just playing music very loudly, everybody gets some headphones. And then like I tried like attending a robotics event. I was truly able to test it out, where there's like different colors for different musics that are getting played. So there's like 3 different colors for 3 different tracks that are getting played, but people are dancing to it. And if you're an outsider, you're looking and the only noise are the people who are dancing. You don't hear any of the music because everything's in headphones. So you see, like, that changed the face of disco. From instead of just blatantly playing loud music, people can pick and choose out of 3 different options, but it's also quieter, so it helps other people. What does this show for movies? Is it possible where you come into like a augmented like people have home theaters, okay? But still, it's just not like, is it where like people put on those types of glasses where they can watch the movie on their glasses and they have special headphones?
I would say it's the idea is sound, but there's technological limitations. Your eye can perceive so many pixels, say. So when you're wearing a headset, things can only become so clear. So like things, if you're wearing a headset, right, things in the distance might seem very realistic, but something that's right next to you will seem quite off because it's just not as detailed as if you took your glasses off and looked at a similar object in real life. So I think that's where technological limitations come in, because when you look at traditional theaters, right, they tend to have, well, they have a projector, but the projector is very large and it's very far away from you. So while it doesn't break immersion, it also doesn't break your immersion by showing you something that's not detailed enough, because it's far away enough that your eye does not see anything wrong with it. While with virtual reality, there's issues because it's not like a screen is like, 100 meters that way. It's like right here with your headset on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's issues there. Screens are detailed enough. There's things called like 4K, things like that. This monitor's 1920 by 1080. That one's 1900 by 1080. That's 2560 by 1440.
You said a lot of numbers, Kevin. I didn't understand them, but I'm going to take your word for it.
Okay, there's 2,560 pixels from this edge to this edge, and there's 1,440 pixels from this top to this bottom.
Okay.
So that's regarded as a very, very high quality. But if you put your eyes up to it, you can still see each individual pixel. It has to be very, very close.
True, but here's the thing. Imagine when you watch a movie in 3D. I remember watching it wasn't Jurassic Park, but it was a Jurassic World movie in 3D. Like, I thought I was gonna grab it, like even when it's just for that second. In reality, I knew it. Okay, like after I grabbed, I was like, oh no, I didn't get anything. But like, it's just for that second where you feel it, and that feeling is amazing, right? And so that's what made 3D so attractive. So why not have something else? And this also brings up a next question.
No, I'm saying this will be perfectly valid. This will be a great replacement once technology has achieved that point. But I don't foresee it reaching that point within 10 years. Because yes, technology is improving. Yes, there was the Moore's Law. Technology improves twice.
They double every year.
It
doubles every
5
year. So
every year.
So like 1 gig turned into 2 gigs, 2 gigs turned into 4 gigs.
Moore's Law is no longer applicable.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It's no longer applicable. Technology is not growing as much as it has before. I don't know if I'm sure we've not reached our upper boundary yet, but we're getting close.
I'll say
a lot of technology.
I'll say this to end today's podcast. And here's the thing. I see that you're saying that like technology is not going to be as growing as much as it is, but here's the thing. We never thought we'd be doing Zoom meetings. I never thought of a Zoom meeting until
maybe if we break out quantum computing. Maybe if we quantum computing.
This pandemic forced different changes. We just went through 10 different changes, right? There are 10 different trends to look out for in 2021. One of which was like the change of like people being more flexible with work, but also flexibility among just how things are done, and like just the work from home balance. What do you like? I think this is a game changer. And Moore's Law, I say that the doubles. Well, guess what? That might change too. And I'm not saying that number's going down. I think that number's going up. I don't think, because we've come to a point where people have felt and done things on a whole different level where they're like, hey, I want to change this at home. I want to change that at home. Simple stuff was like them buying and gardening and those types of trends. But on a technology aspect, somebody in somewhere has gone and said, hey, I want to change XYZ different things.
Well, no, Moore's Law doesn't refer to technological development itself. Moore's law references the number of transistors you could put in a given area. So currently, we've hit I believe it's nanometer mark. Let's see here. Okay, so I believe, Intel has hit the 10 nanometer mark. And if I'm not wrong, AMD has hit the 7 nanometer mark.
So can you explain to me and our viewers, what does that mean?
It means that the size of the transistors between each transistor is 7 nanometers. That's
extremely small.
Yes, very, very small. Let's see here. That is 1 meter to the negative 1 meter times 10 to the negative 9, which means that's 0.000000001 meters.
That's a very small meter.
Yeah. So transistors have hit that stage, and at least in the past, from 2019 to now, the past 2 years, right? It's been roughly the same. It's I believe my computer is running a Ryzen 2600, so that would be 12 nanometers. So it's gotten smaller. Is it half? No. But it's gotten smaller over 2 years. As you can see, it's slowing down.
Well, guess what? Now there's going to be other areas where things will speed up. More focus will be put onto other areas.
But Moore's law will not be held applicable because Moore's law does not reference technological advancement. It references...
We can call it the T&W law about technological advancements if we want. But here's the thing.
All right, let's go patent that.
But look at it this way. Technology is changing. We might have been going down on a plateau, but guess what? With everything, the situation being shifted, now we're in a new situation, and there's going to be a lot of growth, I feel like. A lot more growth. I think this is a good point to conclude our podcast for today.
All right. T&W Podcast signing off.
Thank you so much, everybody. You guys have fun. We'll see you later this week. Bye-bye.